Good morning. Welcome to Decorah UCC. My name's Adam Campbell. I'm your worship leader here today. And was anybody here last Sunday for Nordic choir? Did anyone have the experience of just kind of floating through the week? Just flying on gratitude? So, what a week it was. What a Sunday we had last time. And also, we're privileged to have another gift from Luther and from this community here with us today. Dr. John Jensen will be sharing the reflection today. I don't think he will be singing, but he will be talking to us about the essence of the season that we're in. Thank you, John, for being here. So blessed to have you. And now let's settle in together. Let's take a deep breath. Let's let the outside world sink away. And let's pause for a moment of stillness to prepare our hearts and minds for worship today. And as we gather together today, we're reminded of the example of Jesus who welcomed every single person to his table without exception. God's doors are open to all, and we invite each and every one of you to the fellowship and worship of this congregation, whether you're young or old or anywhere in between, whatever your history or background, whether your faith is an old friend or you're filled with confusion and doubt, whatever your sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, whatever your color, culture, or nationality, whatever the size and shape of your family, and whether you're joining us right here or online, we're so pleased and privileged to have your presence with us here today. So let's celebrate and worship together and begin by singing.
And let us all rise in body or in spirit as we sing our opening hymn that can be found as an insert in your bulletin, Canticle of the Sun. For this one, we'll be singing verses 1 through 3 and then verse 5.
Come
The peace of God be amongst you all. I invite you to show signs of that peace amongst you now. Peace to you, please. And as you all find your seats, I invite the kids, the young, the youthful at heart, those who wants to be a kid for just a moment to come on up for the children's sermon with John today. And afterwards, the kids will go downstairs with Summer and Jordan.
Good morning. Can I sit down with you guys here? Do you know what season it is right now? What season? Spring. How can you tell that it's spring?
Because of the flowers.
Because of the flowers. That's good. And the fawns?
It's between like I think like March 21st and June something.
Yeah, we can tell by the movements of the sun that there is the spring like that. What do you like about spring? What's your favorite thing about spring? Your birthday. My birthday's in the spring too. Yep. What else? Soccer. Uh-huh. Anything else? One of my favorite things about spring is that it's almost the end of school, and then it gets to be summer. So I'm a teacher, and sometimes kids think that teachers want to go to school year-round, but it's not true. Your teacher is probably more excited about the end of school than you are, but it's okay. You know, I think what I like best about spring, or at least one of the things, in addition to the flowers, and we have some flowers up there, is new animals. And I am a lover of birds. And this time of year, there's lots of birds that flew away for the winter, because they're smarter than we are, and now they're coming back. So every morning, when I get up, one of the first things that I like to do, we live out in the country, is I like to go outside and listen to hear what birds are calling. And so there's some of those are little birds, or like the robins, or the wren is back and is singing like crazy, and some of them are big birds. And a lot of these are birds that I never actually see, but I can hear them. So the turkeys are calling every morning. Do you know what sound a turkey makes? What sound? Gobble, gobble. And they don't actually just go like I used to learn, so gobble, gobble. They go. And so you go out in the morning, and you hear, and it just makes me smile. And this morning when I stepped outside, I heard a brand new bird, which is a sandhill crane. And they are coming back again, and many times just sort of passing through. But at the risk of making a total fool of myself, I'm going to tell you that you have to, not so much here, but in other places, the sandhill cranes, they dance. And in addition to singing, all of us should dance. So I'm going to show you what a sandhill crane looks like. But then, you shouldn't have too much screen time, but you should tell your parents, can we see a video of cranes dancing? Because it's pretty cool. But what they do is like this. So they have really long legs, and oftentimes they're on one leg, and they flap and they dance, and they flap and they dance, and they flap and they dance. You hope that they don't follow you. The other bird I've been hearing every morning, which is just newly back a little bit, is called a towhee. Yeah, do you know those? They're like your toe. It's like, I think of it like a combination of an owie on your toe. It's a towhee that you get. But lots of birds, they feel like they're talking to me. In the evenings, they're the owls that they'll come out and they'll say, who cooks for you? But the towhee says, drink your tea. Yes. Have you heard that before? Drink your tea. Exactly. And I always say to them, but I like coffee better. And do you know what the towhee says? Drink your tea. Exactly. You got it. The other thing that's going to happen, in addition to new birds, is we'll have new other baby animals. There'll be fawns in the woods. We're going to have some baby goats at our house pretty soon, which are pretty cute. But there also will be baby sheep. And little lambs may be the cutest animal of all. throughout the Bible, including this morning, there's lots of images of sheep and shepherds. And that's because in the Holy Land at the time, there were lots of people that raised sheep. And so they were using stories. Jesus was using stories, and other people were using stories that they wanted people to relate to. And so a lot of that imagery is about sheep, and a lot of it is about we should follow Jesus. We should be like sheep following the shepherd. And if you've ever been around sheep, they really like to follow. They would sort of go along in single file, or they'll follow along somebody like that. And often we are like sheep that we should follow along. So you should all follow your parents all the time because they're the good shepherds. And we should look for that as something that we can do. But not all the time. So sometimes we need to be the shepherds and not do what everybody else does. So sometimes maybe you're with your friends and somebody says something mean about somebody else, and other people start doing the same thing because that's what we do. We often follow other people like sheep. But sometimes we need to be different. Sometimes we need to be the one who says, no, we should be nice to everybody. And in many ways, that's what Jesus did. He taught us that we should be nice to everybody all the time. So sometimes we need to be the shepherd and lead other people instead of being the sheep. Will you pray with me? Dear God, thank you for spring. Thank you for parents and friends. Thank you for the birds and the baby animals. Help me to know when to be a sheep. And help me to know when not to follow others. And to lead others to do good things. Amen. Have fun.
Luckily, I'm drinking tea today, so I feel in the clear on that one. So, once again, we pause. We put our feet on the floor. We straighten our backs. We take a nice deep breath. We let the rest of the world sink away. And we take a moment to check in with ourselves. What's alive for us today? What prayers are inside of us today that we'd like to share with each other? We might be carrying the joy of life, the miracle of this season, the celebration of this community and our friends and family. Maybe we're carrying sadness or anxiety or confusion. Now's our time to share that with each other so it doesn't have to be carried alone. The benefit of gathering together is that we can hold all of those things and more together in community. So in a moment, if you'd like to share, you can raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone to you. Remember to speak into the microphone as closely as you can. Remember to be thorough and brief at the same time. And after each sharing, we'll have a sung response.
And our sung response together will be, "O God, hear us, hear our prayer." I'll sing it once through, and then I'll have everyone sing it with me. O God, hear us, hear our prayer. O God, hear us, hear our
And what shall we pray for today, friends?
I have a prayer of gratitude for the people that film our services and do all the work that makes it really well, because during the week I went on to YouTube and once again watched the service from last Sunday, and I was just around in my home, and it was wonderful. So I encourage other people to take advantage of being able to see again.
For our filming team.
Oh God, hear us, hear our prayer.
I'd like to share another prayer of gratitude for this church community for their continued support of Natalie and Lily with another educational scholarship. Both Natalie and Lily are completing their freshman year of college and are blooming. Thank you for your continued support.
For this community and our blooming college students.
Oh God, hear us, hear our prayer.
May we pray for those who cannot be with us today. May they know that we love them, and so does God.
For those who can't be with us here today.
I would like a prayer for my granddaughter and her family. They're awaiting the birth of their third child in July, and they know that they probably will be facing some complications. So I really pray for their strength and health for this little baby boy.
For Carol's granddaughter and for the health of New Life.
For the church council being brave enough to publish all the financials of the church, which was very desired by more than one person, and I'm glad we did that. I think that really is good for the whole family to know what is going on with the family.
For the council. Any other prayers today? Well, I invite you into the spirit of prayer with me now. O divine presence, we pause from the busyness of our week to gather in this Sabbath moment and to look at the flowers, to see the trees coming to life after a long season of dormancy, to see the new animals being born, the birds returning, new sounds every day, new sights every day. The great wave of life filling us up once again. And so we come with gratitude today that it comes back. And we're reminded of the ebb and flow of life itself. How there will be times of joy and celebration. There will be times of darkness and sadness. In this life that we live, we'll face it all at some point. So we're grateful for strength and courage and a firm ground upon which to stand as we face change after change after change. We're grateful for this community so that we can be part of something greater than ourselves, a broader body with which to go out and do the work of the new kingdom, the new heaven and the new earth. And to learn every day, over and over, to be instruments of your peace, to be vessels of love, and ultimately to understand when to follow and when to lead, when to step forward to offer something different that the world needs in this moment. We acknowledge that inside each one of us, there's so much going on. So many prayers unspoken today, even to ourselves sometimes. So we lift all of those up. Knowing with gratitude, once again, that all of them are held and seen and known. And that no matter what it is, that we're loved, that we're enough, and that we belong. And now you're invited to speak the words that Jesus taught us to speak many years ago, and to whatever words are meaningful for you. O God, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And now I invite you to join me in singing our invitation to listen that can be found as an insert in your bulletin, Christ Be Our Light.
Good morning. If you'd like to volunteer for any of the tasks at church, there's a sign up back there, and sometimes you can just come in on Sunday morning and see what needs doing. That's always fun too. But the Luther students can't always both be here. Sometimes we need another adult to help with the kids, and acolyte, greeting, fellowship, there's all kinds of fun things. So Adam asked me to read, and this second one is about sheep, and the sheep are so well behaved. And when I was helping Brian on our sheep farm, they weren't always that well behaved. If you ask me, they didn't always just follow our voice. We were like chasing them up and down the hills most of the time. So I would beg to differ, but anyway. All right. The first reading is very familiar from Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, 1 through 4. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And the second reading about the well-behaved sheep is John chapter 10, 1 through 6. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. And the third reading from Acts chapter 2. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. That ends the readings.
Good morning. It's great to be with you on this beautiful spring morning in Earth Week and the fourth Sunday of Easter. I confess that I'm feeling a little ill at ease this morning. Part of that was the realization I had midweek that my job was to follow the act of the Nordic choir last week. A few weeks ago when Adam asked me if I would give the message this morning, and I said, well, what else is going on in April? Are there themes I need to follow? He said, no, I'll just be Nordic choir the week before. I should have made the connection here, but my brain isn't quite that fast. And I confess I'm always a little bit ill at ease. I'm not always comfortable in front of a pulpit. I don't think I've ever been comfortable behind one. But I really value this church, and I really value the way that different people sort of step up and that we're able to hear different voices, which I think is so, so valuable. A short biographical note before I get into this. I was raised as a Methodist, but I accidentally went to a Lutheran college. And for the last 40 years, I feel like I've been ensnared in a net of Lutheranism. And that has positive and negatives that go along with it. One of the positives, I never had an appreciation for music, and particularly choral music in my church tradition. But the Lutherans know how to do music, and I'm deeply grateful for that. And along the way, in spite of all my doubts, I became very interested in theology, and I got from the Lutherans both an appreciation for the liturgical calendar, for the seasons of the church, as well as for the lectionary. I grew up in a church where the pastor picked whatever sermon they wanted and talked about whatever they wanted, kind of regardless of the season. So while I agree with Margaret that the sheep in this morning's reading don't match the sheep that I've tended before, these are the readings, not the Ecclesiastes, but the others from the lectionary. And it feels important to me, anyway, to try to read the Bible in a somewhat systematic way and to face sometimes the challenges that come with reading different parts. So, on this glorious morning, I say to you, happy spring. I love spring. I love the flowers. I love the birds, as I guess you heard before. I really do get giddy about the return of migrating birds, and each morning I really do step outside to see who's calling, who's returned to our neighborhood after a week away. This week it was the brown thrasher, a long-tailed brown bird that I always hear and rarely see. Like me, the thrasher prefers to stay on the edges. They hang out along the fence rows and ditches. They seem to want to be close to the open spaces, but prefer to sit back and watch the goings-on from a safe hideaway where they can call out their greetings. They're a mimic, and they always call in pairs, easily confused with the catbird, who is also a mimic, but the brown thrasher, like Noah, is always 2 by 2. Beep, beep, deedly, deedly, doo-doo, doo-doo. And like sheep, they follow those that they hear around them, mimicking different sounds, which can make it harder to tell what's there. I love spring, but I also just love seasons in general. And this time of year, I sort of feel the power of the seasons. I confess that I've not yet put away my cross-country skis, for I love winter, and sometimes a late April snow paints this beautiful green world white, but it's only for a day, and you can sneak in one last taste of winter. I love the long days of summer and the startling refreshment of jumping into the river after a long, sweaty stint weeding my garden. And I love fall, but not really. I confess, it's my least favorite season. Don't get me wrong, I feel the power of a perfect October day. But fall is the season of decline. It's the harbinger of the coming darkness. I don't know, maybe it's something about me, but I struggle in the fall. And I know that's blasphemy to many of you, including my wife. Sometimes in the late fall, I just feel the world closing down around me. The vibrant greens are fading away, and everything feels like it's coming towards darkness. If spring is the season of new life, fall feels to me like the season of impending death and darkness. There are, of course, many types of seasons, and I love the image of the seasons of life that we get from Ecclesiastes. This morning's reading is one of my favorites, and maybe it's just because of that old song from the Birds, right? To everything turn, turn, turn. Now you know why I wasn't in the Nordic choir. For me and Rachel, this is the season of empty nesting. After 20 plus years of having our children, Sylvie and Lily, as the focus and part of our daily reality, following them to their various events, those birds, like the winter migrants, have flown the coop. This was not the time when I was supposed to cry. I'm thrilled that they are thriving, but I still miss them every day, and we're making that adjustment along the way. It's the Easter season, and not just Easter Day. As Melissa Bills told us before, the Easter season goes on for 50 days. And I think it's an interesting time to think about that season. Easter is, at least partly, the season of death. This week, I marked 3 months since my father died in January. You all have experienced death in your lives. It's part of the seasons of life. Every day this week, I've been at Dad's house packing stuff up. It's a time for sadness, but also for appreciating the seasons of life. So much stuff, but so many stories, so many reminders of all the blessings in the seasons of a well-lived life. To everything, there is a season. My dad loved flowers, and he had a particular fondness for amaryllises, which seemed to me perfect symbol of spring. These amaryllises were his, and they remind us of the new life that emerges as part of the seasons of life. I listened this week also to an interview with Ben Sass, a politician with whom I share no ideology, but I have tremendous respect. He was recently diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4. And it was a good reminder for me of how much we have to learn from those with whom we disagree, and how none of us know what is the seasons of our own lives, which is a reason to appreciate every day, every bird call, every person who graces our lives. All of this is part of the seasons of life. All of this is part of the Easter season. For Easter is not just about the death of Good Friday, but it's about the resurrection of Easter morning. It's about the new life that emerges every spring. And it's about the reality that whether we think the resurrection is a literal truth or a metaphorical reality, death is never the end. It is an end, but not the end. And the miracle of this earth and this life is that there is always new life. There is always Easter after Good Friday. There's always spring after fall and winter. The fundamental message of the Easter season is that death is not the end of the story. And it seems like a perfect fit for spring when new life emerges from what seemed like dead soil. But there's a different meaning to the Easter season, and one that I think we need to understand and embrace. Easter is the season of death, and second, the season of new life. But it is, in the historical narrative of the New Testament, a season of transition. It's the time when Jesus shifted his ministry to the disciples. It is, in some sense, the end of Jesus' story, or at least the active story of his ministry on earth, and it's the beginning of the story of the apostles. We read this morning from the book of Acts. When I was a kid, I thought the book of Acts was spelled A-X, like a hatchet. And I could never understand in all the readings why there was no chopping in Acts. Acts, of course, is shorthand for Acts of the Apostles. It's the story of the early church and its spread through the Holy Land and out throughout the earth. It's the story of the transition from Jesus to the apostles. It's the story of the transition from the shepherd to the sheep. I would argue it's the story of the transition from others to us, from Jesus to the rest of us. One commentary summarizes the main point of the book of Acts with this phrase: God can do amazing things through ordinary people. Let me say that again. God can do amazing things through ordinary people. Ordinary people like you and me. Maybe for this Easter season, all of us need to ask, what will I do with this season of my life? Regardless of my age or my position, how can I take the spirit of spring, of new life, of Easter promise, and shape it into a focus for what I do? I wanted to title this sermon From Sheep to Shepherds, because I think that is, in some sense, the message of the Easter season that we don't hear enough. This message of transition, this message of new leaders, this message of this season and what it calls out from us. Sheep are good followers, though not all the time. Over the last several years, I've had the opportunity to be a shepherd of sorts. At Luther, where I work, we have several large solar fields. In an attempt to figure out how to manage the vegetation underneath those solar panels, we've gone to using sheep every summer as a way to be able to provide them forage and to provide us the management that what we need along the way. I could tell you many stories about my failures as a shepherd, but it is true that sheep tend to follow, and it is true that sheep need shepherds. The Bible, as I told the kids, is full of imagery of Jesus as the shepherd and us as the sheep. But now maybe it's time that we become the shepherds. Now maybe it's time that we recognize this as the season of our lives. Part of my task was to talk about Earth Day, and I confess to Adam that I'm not a big fan of Earth Day. It's an interesting holiday. At its roots, Earth Day is a political holiday, I would argue. Some of you may remember the first Earth Day in 1970, a first gathering to rally support for environmental protection 56 years ago. I remember well, and I think I shared with you before, Earth Day 1990, 20-year anniversary. I was on the Mall in D.C. with 1 million other people working to recreate the spirit and momentum of that first Earth Day. It worked in the early 70s, and to some extent, it worked in the early 90s, that we passed incredible environmental legislation. We made a transition. It was a season in the life of the United States that had so much good fruit. These days, that spirit, at least for those who are paying attention to politics and especially environmental policy, seems far away. This feels like Good Friday, and I'm not sure when the new life is coming. Perhaps as a result, much about Earth Day has been shifted to individuals, to our individual behaviors, to what I can do in my life. That shift from a political focus of what we can do to an individual focus of what I should do is important, but it's also deeply troubling to me. It's important because what we do matters. We make a difference and our individual actions do add up. But it's troubling because it also reflects the tendency of our culture to co-opt holidays to reinforce dominant cultural practices. In an individualistic consumer culture, Earth Day has become more about what I buy than about what we do collectively. And I argue, and somewhat the same has happened with Easter. It's been co-opted in a way to be more about me than it is about us. So one more time, I ask you to think about what would it mean to shift from being a sheep following what everyone else does to being a shepherd, leading and moving in a new direction. Perhaps like the apostles in Acts, it is now our time to think about how we can lead, how we can be shepherds. I talked a little bit about my dad, and one of the things he said to me in the weeks before he died, he said that I was the one of his sons who had the most significant mentors. It was an interesting reflection. It's true. My life has been blessed by people who were significant mentors. I don't think my dad realized how important he was in that role, but all of us need people that we can look up to. And I want to suggest to you that one of the ways that we can be shepherds is by being mentors to other people in our lives. One of my mentors was a guy by the name of Wes Jackson, and I was thinking about him this week. I spent a year at the Land Institute and got to know Wes. He loved to talk theology, and he loved to make jokes about the Bible. Some people don't have a sense of humor about the Bible, but Wes sure did. I thought of him because one of his favorite jokes was to explain why they only had 8 students in their program. He said, well, Jesus only had 12 students, and he had to give 1 F. And then Wes would say, and I figure I'm only 2/3 as good as Jesus, so I just have 8 students. Wes was a mentor to me, and I think he was a great example of not just following what may be the standard script for Earth Day, but saying, what if we really rethink things? What would it look like to lead in a new direction? And I think that's what Jesus did as well. Arguably, Jesus was a political and moral revolutionary as much as he was a savior for individuals. He thought we should be kind and love everyone. And I think it's hard for us to realize what a radical idea that was at the time and what a radical idea it feels like now. So maybe this spring, this Easter season, this Earth Week, we need to ask ourselves, what would it mean to not simply be a sheep, but to embrace the call to be a shepherd? How can I be a mentor for others in the way they have been for me? How can I step up and be a guide rather than simply being one of the sheep? Who might I open the gate for to create new opportunities? How might I share the joy of spring, the love of Jesus, and the miracle that is life? Amen.
I invite you all to rise in body or in spirit as we join together in singing our response hymn that can be found in the New Century Hymnal at number 28, For the Beauty of the Earth. I just want to point out, I was just seeing at the bottom a little bit about this hymn. Folliot Pierpoint was the one who wrote the words to this hymn, and it seemed that the words of this hymn were written by him on a late spring day when flowers were in full bloom and all the earth seemed to rejoice. Now, this is a familiar hymn to most of us here, and in our efforts to begin to bring in more harmonies, we are also going to quickly teach the alto line. The alto line is just the line right below the melody there, and it's that next line, and I'm going to have Elizabeth here teach the alto line for us.
Yeah, I'll sing along the alto line. We're on the same note a lot of the time. So follow along with me right below the melody line. For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. God of all, to you we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
So as we sing together, Elizabeth is going to sing the harmony parts. I'll keep going on the melody. If you feel brave and would like to sing that slightly lower harmony part, follow Elizabeth here. Otherwise, follow along with the melody with me as well. Let's sing together. All 4 verses.
Be seated. Thanks for the brave ones who sung some harmony there. Now we take a moment to come into stillness together and to see how the song and the music and the words that we have had today, to let them have our impact on us. How might we leave this space today and step into our own shepherdness? What does the rest of Eastertide call for us? If one of the actions you'd like to take is to leave an offering to this church and its mission, you can leave it at the plates at the back at the end of the service. And now we enter to a time of prayer and meditation. I invite you into the spirit of prayer with me now. Precious mystery, there's music all around us. May we have ears to hear. And this Easter season, may we be your harmony. Amen. A few announcements for you today. First, next week, we have our joint worship service with the UUs, a highlight of every season. So don't miss that. Sue Audie will be giving the reflection. If you did miss, even if you didn't miss last week, if you, as Lorraine pointed out, if you want to see the video from last week, or if you want to rewatch this week, you can go to the YouTube channel that we have. The entire Nordic service, though disrupted in real time, has been posted in its entirety, and hopefully this one is too. So thanks again for our stream team, Tim, Phil, and everyone else for doing that. Due to popular demand, we are now offering quarterly reports from the council. So not just one annual report once a year, but to keep the congregation more in flow with what is happening. Our first quarterly report has now been issued. It went out on the e-news. There's printed copies right now at the back of the room and also downstairs during fellowship, which you're all invited to right now, right after this. So, and it will also go out probably to personal emails next week. So take time to look that over. If you have any questions, find any of the council or myself. And feedback. This is the first iteration. We'll keep making it better. Give us your feedback and let us know what's missing or what was too much, whatever. And along with that, also, we got feedback that everyone really liked the visioning session that we had at annual meeting, and we want more of that too. So every quarter, not just a report, but we're going to have longer visioning time as well. And that's this season going to happen May 17th. So 3 Sundays from now, right at fellowship, right after fellowship. So from 12 to 1, roughly, we'll have an hour of time, which is much longer than we had at annual meeting, to discuss what we want to discuss, break up into tables, find the topic that's meaningful to you, and to, again, with the theme today, how can we become the shepherds and take action and live into the Acts of the Apostles? How can we do that here together? Last note that I have is in the newsletter right now, there's a series that just started up called Love in Action, which is highlighting all the things that the church does that doesn't happen right here from 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11:30, which is a lot of stuff. And a lot of people don't actually know what some of those things are or the totality of them. So each week, please don't miss it. There's going to be an installation of all the things happening. Last week was Kids Lunch Club. This week is the Immigration Action Network. And we'll keep on going for several weeks. So inform yourself, please, about all the things that are happening, because it's a lot that this church does. It's kind of amazing, actually. Are there any other announcements right now? Yes, there are. Hold on a second.
I think Adam forgot an important part of the visioning, and that is pizza. For those that are hungry before they think. Also, this Friday at 1:30 in the afternoon. Oh, I have 3 things. This Friday in the afternoon at 1:30 at St. Ben, all the different churches are getting together. I guess it's only women, but Marilyn can clarify. Anybody, okay, men, women, children, whatever. And it's Friendship Day, so it's just a time to get together and have a little conversation. And she can tell you more. One other thing is today at 3 o'clock, I guess Phil wanted to say that. Is he here? Go for it. Beethoven and Finlandia and all kinds of cool things at the high school at 3. The orchestra is playing, and of course Phil is part of it.
Do you want She got it. Community works at 3 o'clock. Anything else today? Okay, thank you, John, for that reflection. Thank you, Jessica, for your playing. Thanks to Benj and Elizabeth for your singing. What a service we've had today. I think we can sing each other out.
And let us all rise in body or in spirit as we sing each other out with the words and music of Michael Stillwater, One by One. We do have the words printed in the bulletin. And again, this is a lovely song that works as a round. And so as we do that, Elizabeth will lead one side of the congregation in part of the round. I will lead the other side of the congregation in the round. And we'll kind of split things off. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing. Everyone comes to one heart at a One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing. Everyone comes to one heart at a One by one, everyone comes to one by one. One by one, everyone comes to remember.
As we go forth into a new day and a new week, may we take time to smell the flowers, to hear the music of the birds, and to appreciate the beauty around us. May we be sheep following Jesus' example to love everyone, and may we be shepherds finding our way to be leaders and mentors in shaping the world to come. Amen.